We are back for another week of racing in season 18 of LFM. We are once again focusing on the sprint race action, this time at Suzuka Circuit. Now, it's safe to say that Suzuka has not been a happy hunting ground for me in LFM, but sometimes in sim racing, things just seem to click together. And what I have to show you in these two races was certainly a surprise from my standpoint, with some newfound pace and some newfound competitiveness in this LFM field. Of course, I'm very excited to show you some good form from myself, so let's dive straight into the action and show you what I mean. So, qualifying for race number 1, and we're going to take you for a lap, show you the circuit, show you where I've been finding speed this week in the Mustang here in LFM. We're going to come down to turn number 1, going nice and deep here, taking that speed all the way to that first outside apex, trying to tuck in and hold that momentum all the way around using all of that exit curve as well. And coming through now the S's section, turns 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and patience is the key here with this Mustang. It's got lots of good exit acceleration, lots of raw power, but if you are going too deep into these curves, you are going to run too wide, not have the front end grip to allow you to get on the throttle as early as possible. Doing a better job of it here now, and that is finding me a lot of pace. Now through Degner Curve, you can run it a lot wider there. I'm definitely cautious because it's easy to pick up a track cut through that corner, and then dropping the TC down to TC3 in qualifying trim with the fresh tyre as we come to the hairpin. This is the part of the track when the Mustang is very sluggish trying to get the car turned, and that lower TC just allows for a bit more rotation as you get on the throttle out the other side, but you do need to be careful not to light it up too much and lose traction on exit. Coming up towards Spoon Curve now, and you want to go nice and deep here, third gear down to second, carry all that speed to that outside apex, and then be patient, wait for the apex through the second part of Spoon Curve, and then on the throttle as early as you dare, using that exit curve as well, and this long back straight here, up the gears up to 5th gear, and then approaching 130R. Scary corner this one, a bit of a lift, a tiny bit of brake just to get the car turned, actually get a big slide there, not the best way to do it, and then hard on the brakes down to the final chicane, over the curbs as much as possible, trying to get on the power as early as you can here, run it over that outside curb and all the way down to the start finish line here. Now my previous best qualifying time on LFM in the BMW was a 2-minute 1.1, but we are now in the 59s in this Mustang, a huge improvement, and so far P3 in the session, but just pipped there by the door number 1 Mustang to fall back to P4 before the start. So into the start positionings now. What can we do here from 4th place? Door card number 12, so we are plenty way up this field. Where's where we should be. Green light and we are underway. The door 1 car is on the inside there. We decide to fall in behind, and unfortunately the Ferrari and the Mustang in front collide at the first turn, and we're able to sneak around the outside and shockingly find ourselves in P2 after the first turn, far up the grid, not a position that I've been in for some time, particularly at a track that I have no real track record on. So what can be done in these 25 minutes? Slightly warmer temperatures than the practice conditions. How's the car going to handle that over the 25 minutes? We're about to find out. New ground for me here. We'll just see what can be achieved. Now we're going to look at the start once again, and you see that door 1 car is on the inside there with gap behind for me, so I decide to slip in, but the Ferrari just turns down a bit too early, small contact, and around that Ferrari goes. Big mess behind as well. I'm just very fortunate to be able to sneak around the outside of that one. Bit of carnage there further down the pack. Now as we get into lap number 2, it became very apparent very quickly that door number 2 Mustang that's in the lead of the race was probably going to be plenty away from me by the end of this one. He's really good pace, his opening laps were really good, and I'm still learning how to deal with the Mustang early race under cold tyres. So he quickly pulls nearly 2-second gaps. We approach 130R here, and behind the door card number 3 BMW, so again another very high elo player around me here. He was going to be the one I was most focused on. But the Mustang does have its advantages, and I was really keen to try and utilise them. It pretty much meant not outbraking myself in any of the corners. That sort of mistake would double down with not being able to get on the power early enough out of corner,
and if I can nail that for the 25 minutes, I probably had enough with that raw power of the Mustang to just slip away at those key moments and take the pressure off. You see here on lap 4 though, the BMW, he is right behind me, not the best first sector on this particular lap, and he immediately closes in down to the hairpin here. This is the weak part of the track for the Mustang. BMW right under the rear wing now, but as you can see, as soon as they get on that power, we can just eke out a little bit of an advantage, and that just takes the pressure off a little bit and gives me that buffer I need. So while I'm not maybe outright faster than that BMW behind in race trim for all parts of the race, I probably had enough in the tank here. If I get these sectors right, this part of Spoon Curve for example, nice and early on the power, getting away just enough to take the pressure off through this race. However, we're going to look in the rear vision mirror at the moment here on lap number 4. As we get to 130R, the BMW makes a tiny mistake there and he runs wide at 130R, and that falls him back into the clutches of that Door 1 Mustang, recovering from that first lap contact. Now I do want to give a shout out to that Door 1 card, Lewis or Boosive Motorsport on YouTube. Link in the description to his page if you want to check his racing out. He's an extremely fast driver, really nice guy, 5,500 elo as well, so any day that I can be sharing a similar piece of racetrack with him is a very good day in my opinion. But I was really worried about him catching me by the end of this race. Having that buffer there with that BMW was nice, but here at the start of lap number 7, that is about to change. Lewis with a really good run on that door card number 3 BMW, and he is going to slip up the inside into the first turn here nice and cleanly, and that is going to make me his next target. Now the pressure was going to be on to set some really clean fast laps. The best driving I can do was the only way I was going to have any chance of keeping him behind me on track here. Unfortunately, being in these sorts of pressure situations, I don't get to do them too often, and here with 10 minutes to go, feeling the car going underneath me, I didn't adjust particularly well to that, pushing a bit hard here through the S's, getting quite loose on the acceleration exit from all the corners and losing tenths of time with Lewis right behind me, catching me rather quickly here. You see as we come up towards the Tegna curve, already 4 tenths down on this lap and was almost there at 1 second behind. However, an uncharacteristic mistake here, pushing too hard into Tegna for Boosive behind, picks him up a drive-through penalty, and I'm very fortunate to get away with that one, not getting into the battle there for P2. Like I said before, my chances of keeping him behind me were very, very slim, particularly with how the rest of the racing lap times went for me. However, fortunately, that did allow a nice gap back to that number 3 BMW, and through the last part of the race, we were just trying to hold on as best as we can. Like I mentioned before, the car was definitely going away from me, the tyres were dropping off, and I was significantly slower by the end of the race, as were a lot of other drivers though. But good lessons going forward into the next one. And you see, coming onto the last lap now, approaching 130R, that gap behind has come down to 1.5 seconds. And a bit of a funny moment here for the leader, he slowed right down, not exactly sure why, but that has brought that gap to a more reasonable gap, although he was well off in the distance before that particular moment. Coming across the line though, we're going to pick up P2 in this race as door card 12. It was a really good result. I was really happy with the drive overall, keeping away drivers like that number 3 car. Again, significant elo advantages over me, and I felt like I drove a really good race. Really, really happy with that one. And as I said, a lovely P2 position, was great elo, ready for race number 2. So let's look at the fastest lap for this particular race. Now we've got 2 splits on this particular time slot, so 18 cars in our split 1 race, and probably the biggest thing to note for this one is probably strength of field. Although the driver numbers I felt were up this week on LFM, strength of field wasn't. I'm door card number 5 on this race, and like I said, with 36 drivers entering this particular race, having myself at door 5 didn't feel like there was a lot of the very top players around, at least for this particular time slot anyway. So it gave me a bit of an opportunity with the pace that I had, the improvement that I was making. there was potentially an opportunity to pick up yet another really high-end result. Actually, I am provisional P1 in this session, 30-degree track temperatures, so hot track, and I was definitely feeling it. You see the tyre temps there, nearly 100 degrees, so the car definitely slipped around. You had to really nail those braking markers and not try and push the front tyre too hard, getting too much of a slide on. Now we're going to come out of the hairpin here. We're a couple of tenths up on our best lap, which is a 2-minute .265. Definitely felt like a 59 was going to be an option here, and in fact we've dropped back to P2 with the door 1 McLaren setting a very low 2-minute lap time at this part of qualifying. Out of the second part of Spoon Curve, trying to get on that power as early as possible. A lot harder in this one, just holding it inside the track's limits there. You see me grimace a bit at how close that one was, and then coming down to 130R here, hoping for a really good exit because there was a bit of time to find at the end of this lap. Fortunately, get the front tyre working, get it pointed, just holding it in track limits as well, and much better under brakes here, a little bit more confident, a little bit more risky, but we're able to get across those two curves. A little bit slow on the entry exit here, and we're going to drop a little bit of that advantage, but showing purple, taking the Verstappen eSports line to the line here in the last lap of this particular fuel load, coming across the line, getting into the 159s and back to that provisional P1. Now there was a bit more time to find, and as we come to the hairpin here, one final attempt of a flying lap, we have found a couple of tenths, but getting it up on that curve just before the braking zone, the hairpin, meant I was not able to stop the car. You can just see how hard it is to get this car turned if you get into a corner like that too fast. So we throw that one away, and by just over a tenth we fail to get pole position here, settling for P2 to the door 4 Ferrari of Mr. Ferrari. So as we look at the start here in P2 position, what will be possible into the first turn? There's fast cars around me, and we're going to need to get a really good start. Now we've pushed the start box a little bit here, and we have got a decent jump off the green line, and in fact as we come down to the first turn, we are in fact in front of the Ferrari pole sitting car, and we're able to take the racing line through the turn 2 and come out the other side holding on to P1. Great move, I'm really happy for that one, but immediately we feel the pressure of being in the lead of an LFM race, something that I have not done for a significant period of time. Just trying to really nail this opening sequence of corners, not trying to look in the mirrors too much, and hoping that the power of this Mustang on its cold tyres will eke out a bit of an advantage. As we come out of the S's around Dunlop Curve up to Degnan Curve, we are in fact pulling out a small margin and starting to feel a bit comfortable with this one as we head up towards the hairpin as well. 0.7 to that Ferrari behind, hitting the braking marker here into the hairpin and down to TC4. Nice rotation mid corner and out the other side here. Feeling really happy with how the first part of this lap has gone, holding down the lead of this LFM race. Now we're going to have a quick look back at the start, and you see just a really decent jump from the Mustang here, and the Ferrari just a bit slower off the line. It's the McLaren that's got a decent run in fact, and 3 wide from the cars behind for a moment there. Really tricky, good driving from everyone to not have any collisions, and it's the yellow Mustang that actually hangs it around the outside and claims P3 from the door 1 red McLaren. So that's the order there. I'm leading with the Ferrari directly behind and the yellow door card number 2 Mustang following them. On to lap number 2 now, and the good run of form in these opening laps has certainly continued. We have coming out of Spoon Curve, but that Ferrari, he's not letting me go away particularly easily here on lap number 3 as well, closing right up at the hairpin. A strong corner for the Ferrari, particularly on corner entry, and I'm just having to do my best work here to try and keep them away. But we got Spoon Curve right here on lap number 4, and we're going to see that margin grow out to 1 second, and starting to feel like I do have the pace to hold on to a win here in this LFM race, particularly with that Mustang there behind the Ferrari. Felt a lot better with him there in P3 than if in P2. Now I was working really hard to try and look after the front tyres. I was really worried with how this car was going to handle at the end of the race. particularly the way it uses its front tyre. But as we throw the action cam up there with the other cars behind, the Ferrari's made a mistake into the final corner, and the Mustang is going to have a run down the front straight here as we finish lap number 4. Now this lap for me is actually fastest lap of the race, and that does stand until the end of the race, which is pretty cool. But as you can see, that Mustang does take the inside line into turn 1, and I now have a new chaser behind the door card number 2, the yellow Mustang there. And I was a little bit worried. I was hoping that that was going to take a little bit longer, if I was being honest with you. And just as in the first race, that switch in pressure from the chaser behind doesn't yield to a particularly good opening sector of this particular lap. We're down 3/10 as we come through the curve, just handling that pressure. Like I said before, leading a race in LFM is not pressure that I deal with very often. It kind of got to me on this particular lap. I come through taking the curve here, half a second down on my previous purple lap time, and that Mustang instantly closes in to within a second, and then half a second as we are on lap number 6 here. Once again falling down 6/10 as we come into the last sector of the lap, down through 130R and into the hairpin. And with 13 minutes to go, that Mustang directly behind, we are going to be under big pressure for the lead of this race, and the rest of the podium positions not far behind them as well. And it's safe to say that I really do want this win. Pressure is mounting, see, wiping the brow there. I really do want this win. Now we're going to chuck the action cam up once again. The P3 battle, unfortunately the door 1 car does collect the back of the pole sitting Ferrari there, taking them out at the first turn, and now we have quite the margin back to P3. But I wasn't looking at that. I was looking eyes forward, trying to put together clean, strong laps, focusing on my corner exits, and that yellow Mustang was not going to be letting me out of their sight, really putting the pressure on. One mistake and it was going to go away here. It's become out of the S's on this particular lap. Less than a couple of tenths away is that Ford Mustang behind, and unfortunately this is the moment where I do make a mistake. Coming into Digna Curve, too much speed and we run wide. Have to be careful on the rejoin, and it is enough to allow that yellow Mustang by. Coming up to the hairpin now, I am now the chaser, having to switch mindset here and hoping that we can hold on and put the pressure back on this lead car now. Letting the wind slip away is not what I had on the agenda here. Now there's the in-cam view from behind. You can see he almost follows me off track, but just enough to get the car turned in and take that inside line into turn number 9. And we're able to slot in behind there. 5 minutes to go now, and you see that Mustang has slipped away a little bit, and although I'm trying my best to catch up, I do start making some mistakes. A bit of a wobble here through the final chicane because I've left the car on TC4 after the hairpin, so we lose traction, lose time, over a second and a half down on my previous best time. And once again, with second to last lap here, I really am trying everything that I can. The car is definitely slipping away from me, and once again I forget to change the TC, a silly mistake, something I'm still trying to learn, and really frustrated at that one. Massive slide, I almost completely throw the whole race away. That we lose a good second there in that process. Now the all wasn't easy for the Mustang out in front. At the last lap there, he runs wide at turn 9. He has to slow down to avoid taking a track cut for a time gain. He must be on 3 track cuts at this point, so it does bring that margin back down to a couple of seconds, but ultimately I am not close enough to do anything about it. He's driven a much better race than I have, with much more speed at the end. My car definitely was pretty abysmal by the end of it. It had no front grip. It was really hard to get the power down on corner exit. You see here, over a second away as we come through Spoon Curve on this last lap. And the last few laps were in fact just shocking lap times. So good lesson to learn here on this hot track, how to look after the car, look after the tyres. I certainly didn't do a good job of it earlier in the race, and that's just a lack of experience here in this Ford Mustang. So we come down to 130R for the final time. So we're going to pick up another P2 position in an LFM race, but this one didn't feel as good as the first. I thought I should have done a better job in this race. Pole position was probably on the cards as well. So to ultimately come away short with a P2 when the win was on the table, it didn't feel so good. Happy enough with the result though, just disappointed that I couldn't make more of the opportunity. These opportunities don't come around very often in LFM. With only one win to my name so far, a second one would have been fantastic.
So guys, a couple of awesome P2 finishes for me in LFM racing this week, and it's safe to say that I certainly enjoyed the first one more than the second, letting that win slip away, I feel, with that silly mistake in race number 2. Now I do want to circle back to the conversation about strength of field. I've noticed the numbers are up this week on LFM, feeling a little bit more normal versus last season, but as I mentioned, the strength of field is down. Now in a way, I'm definitely missing having some of those stronger players on the platform at the moment. Although it's nice to fight for better positions, I certainly enjoy the challenge of fighting some of the best drivers in the field and comparing myself to those drivers as well. So it would be great to have some of those players back in the platform just to really test myself and see where my current form is really at. The flip side of that, however, is that I am therefore more competitive in the races though, and my elo is improving at a more rapid rate as a result. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about the current state of strength of field in the races you're doing? Are you enjoying it? Are you not? Get in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Of course, if you want to see more of my ACC LFM action, there's plenty more weeks in season 18 to unfold, so feel free to subscribe to the channel and let me know how you think those 2 races went. Give me some stick for that mistake in that second race. I'm totally here for it. As always guys, race hard, stay positive. We'll see you again soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.